I want you to notice what you have been holding so tightly as the answer, the relationship, the opportunity, the timing, the proof that tells you everything is finally going to be all right. You may call this determination, you may call it commitment, but some of what you have been calling commitment is fear refusing to sit quietly. You check once, and then you check again. You replay the conversation, you look at the clock, you wonder whether relaxing for even one moment will cause the whole thing to disappear. And perhaps you are tired, not because you have done too little, but because you have been asking your mind to supervise the entire future. Now stay with me here. A closed hand can hold one answer very tightly, but it has no room to receive another. And after a while, that closed hand becomes a closed way of seeing. You begin to notice only what agrees with the outcome you have already chosen. I'm not asking you to stop wanting it. I am not asking you to stop preparing it. I'm not asking you to stop acting. I am asking you to notice what fear has begun doing to the desire. Because there is a difference between taking the next clear step and taking 10 frightened steps simply because uncertainty feels unbearable. There is a way to open the hand without throwing away what the heart still desires. But first, ask yourself honestly, what are you afraid will happen if you stop gripping it? You see, most people do not try to control life because they are foolish. They try to control life because uncertainty frightens them. Somewhere inside, there is a quiet belief that says, if I stop pushing, nothing will happen. If I stop checking, I will miss my chance. If I give this person space, I may lose them. If I rest, I may fall behind. And so you keep moving. You manage, you monitor, you rehearse. You send one more message. You think through the same decision again and again, hoping that another hour of thought will finally give you complete certainty. But fear does not always tell you to run. Sometimes fear tells you to chase. Sometimes it tells you to control every detail. Sometimes it tells you that peace is dangerous, because the moment you relax, life may forget about you. Now, I want you to be gentle with yourself here. You are not trying to create suffering. You are trying to feel safe. You believe that pressure would protect you from disappointment, but pressure cannot remove uncertainty. It can only make you more exhausted while uncertainty remains. And then something happens. The more tired you become, the less clearly you see. The less clearly you see, the more mistakes you fear. And the more mistakes you fear, the more control you demand. That is how the hand closes tighter and tighter. So before you try to release control, ask yourself, what is this grip trying to protect me from? And when you look beneath that grip, you will usually find a belief, not a fact, a belief. Perhaps it says, I am not supported. Perhaps it says, there is not enough time. Perhaps it says, if this door closes, there will be no other door. Perhaps it says, if this person does not choose me, then something must be wrong with me. Now listen carefully, because this is where control becomes so painful. You begin placing your worth inside the outcome. If the message arrives, you matter. If the opportunity appears, you are valuable. And if the relationship continues, you are lovable. And if life moves according to your schedule, then you believe you are on the right path. But no answer was ever meant to carry that much weight. No person was meant to become the proof of your worth. No opportunity was meant to decide whether your life has meaning. The outcome may add something beautiful to your life, but it cannot be given the job of completing you. And when you ask an outcome to prove who you are, you no longer approach it freely. You approach it frightened. You watch it too closely. You interpret every delay as rejection, every silence as a verdict, every change as a threat. So let me say this another way. You are not always trying to control the situation. Sometimes you are trying to control what the situation might make you believe about yourself. Now, I want you to understand that desire itself is not the problem. There is nothing wrong with wanting love. There is nothing wrong with wanting meaningful work, greater freedom, healing, movement, or a new beginning. Desire can be clean. It can give you direction. It can awaken imagination. It can move you toward a more purposeful life. But desire becomes painful when you say, I cannot be at peace until this happens. That is where desire turns into desperation. I choose this is very different from I must have this. I am moving toward this is very different from I must force it to arrive. I will prepare myself is very different from I must control every person, every detail, and every step. Do you see the difference? One comes from intention, the other comes from fear. You may desire love deeply without demanding that one particular person become the only doorway through which love can enter your life. You may desire success without believing it must arrive by one specific date. You may care about an outcome without giving that outcome authority over your peace. I am not asking you to care less. I am asking you to stop making pain the proof that you care. You may carry the desire in your heart without closing your hand around the entire future. And when you begin to understand that distinction, the desire does not become weaker, it becomes clearer. Now take that image a little deeper. You may imagine your hand closed tightly around one thing, and perhaps it is one person, one opportunity, one date, one answer, one exact picture of how your life must unfold. The tighter the hand becomes, the more certain you feel that you are protecting the desire. But what you are really protecting is one interpretation of the desire. A closed hand can hold one thing very firmly, but it cannot receive. It cannot adjust. It cannot reach towards something new. And after a while, the closed hand becomes a closed mind. You begin rejecting anything that does not resemble the outcome you have already chosen. A different opportunity appears, but you do not notice it. A healthier relationship becomes possible, but you are still trying to revive the one that has withdrawn. A quieter path begins to open, but you dismiss it because it does not look dramatic enough. Now, I am not telling you that opening your hand will magically produce everything you want. I am telling you that openness changes what you can see, how you respond, and what choices become available to you. You may still hold the intention, you may still prepare, you may still move with purpose, but you no longer have to squeeze the future until your own peace begins to disappear. Hold the desire, loosen the grip, because sometimes the answer cannot enter your life until you stop insisting that it arrive in only one form. Now, forcing does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks completely reasonable. You check your phone because you're waiting for a reply. Then you check it again and again. You begin rewriting the message in your mind. You wonder whether you said too much, too little, or the wrong thing entirely. And after a while, you are no longer waiting for a response. You are trying to make the uncertainty stop. Perhaps someone has begun pulling away, and you keep explaining yourself. You send another message. You try one more conversation. You believe that if you can only find the perfect words, you can make another person feel what you need them to feel. But love cannot be forced into readiness. Respect cannot be chased into existence, and another person's silence cannot always be solved by adding more noise. You may do the same thing with work. You submit the application, then refresh the page repeatedly. You compare your progress with someone else's. You assume that delay means rejection, and you begin pushing doors before they are ready to open. Or perhaps you are trying to create something. You sit there demanding an idea from an exhausted mind because rest feels irresponsible. You keep stirring the thought, pressing it, judging it, and then you wonder why nothing clear rises to the surface. It is like stirring muddy water because you want it to become clean. And the more urgently you stir, the cloudier it becomes. Now notice what all of these actions have in common. They are not always actions taken to serve the desire. Very often they are actions taken to relieve fear. And that is an important distinction. Are you taking the next step because it is clear, or are you taking another step because uncertainty has become unbearable? And when fear begins choosing your actions, it also begins choosing what you are able to see. You may believe you are looking at the whole situation, but you are not. You are looking through one narrow sentence. It must happen this way. It must be this person, this job, this date, this answer, this path. And once the mind has decided that only one doorway is acceptable, every other doorway begins to look like failure. A different opportunity appears, but you dismiss it because it was not the one you expected. Someone healthier enters your life, but you are still trying to receive love from someone who has already closed their heart. A delay gives you time to prepare, but you call it rejection. A door closes to protect you, but you call it punishment. Now stay with me here. You may know the longing, without knowing its final form. You may know the direction without knowing every road. You may know what your heart is asking for without knowing the exact doorway through which the answer will arrive. The ego wants life to follow the picture it has already created, but spiritual intelligence remains open enough to say, perhaps there is something here I have not yet understood. And that openness does not make you weak. It makes you available to guidance, available to redirection, available to an answer that fear would have overlooked. So ask yourself, what possibility have you rejected simply because it did not resemble your original plan? Now you may be asking, if I stop forcing, will I become passive? Will I lose the opportunity? Will I fall behind? And will nothing happen unless I keep pushing? And this is where many people misunderstand surrender. Letting go does not mean that nothing matters. It does not mean that you stop preparing, stop working, or refuse responsibility. Giving up says, there is no point. Letting go says, this matters to me, but fear will no longer decide how I meet it. You still make the call, you still complete the work, you still tell the truth, you still take the next honest step, but you stop torturing yourself over the part that does not belong to you. You allow another person to make their own choice. You allow timing to be timing. You allow one closed door to remain closed long enough for you to notice another. Now, listen carefully. Action can come from two very different places. One action arises from clarity. It feels purposeful, clean, and steady. You know why you are doing it, and when it is done, you can release it. The other action arises from panic. It repeats itself, it presses, it chases, it says, do something, anything, so I do not have to feel uncertain. One kind of action serves the desire, the other merely serves the fear. And there is a story I want to tell you, because it reveals why more pressure does not always create more progress. Sometimes it only breaks the instrument through which the progress was meant to come. There was once a musician preparing for the most important performance of his life. He had practiced for months. He knew the music. His hands were ready. The instrument had served him faithfully. But on the night before the performance, fear entered his mind. What if the sound is not strong enough? So he tightened the strings. Then he listened again and tightened them a little more. But fear is rarely satisfied by one adjustment. It said, perhaps that is still not enough. And so he tightened them again. By the time he walked onto the stage, every string was stretched beyond what it had been made to carry. He began to play. At first, the sound was sharp and strained. Then one string broke. He tried to continue, and another string broke. The very pressure he believed would guarantee the music had made the music impossible. An older musician came to him afterward and quietly began restringing the instrument. The young man said, I only wanted the sound to be powerful. And the older musician replied, a string needs tension to create music, but not endless tension. A string that is too loose cannot sing. A string that is too tight cannot survive. The music appears when effort and release are brought into harmony. Now think about your own life. I am not asking you to remove all discipline. I am not asking you to become careless. I am asking you to recognize the point at which pressure stops improving the music and begins damaging the instrument. And you are the instrument through which your love, your purpose, your creativity, and your service must come. Life asks for your participation. It asks for courage. It asks for preparation. But it does not ask you to destroy your peace in order to prove that you are committed. Sometimes the next level of growth does not require more force. Sometimes it requires better tuning. This is why ancient wisdom has always spoken about moving without forcing. Not because movement is unnecessary, but because strain is not the same as strength. Look at water. Water does not become passive when it meets a stone. It does not sit there and say, there is no way forward. It continues moving, and sometimes it goes around the obstacle. Sometimes it moves beneath it. Sometimes it waits until a new opening appears. It keeps its direction without demanding that every part of the journey obey its original plan. And there is great intelligence in that. And the ego says, move this obstacle now. The deeper self asks, what is the wisest way forward? The ego wants to prove its power by pushing. But life often reveals a quieter kind of power, the ability to remain committed without becoming rigid. Now, let me say this clearly. Non-forcing does not mean that you stop participating. It means that you stop bringing inner violence to every step. You do what belongs to you. You prepare, you listen, you respond. And when the path changes, you do not immediately call the change failure. You become like water, still moving, still purposeful, still capable of reaching the destination, but no longer wasting your strength arguing with every stone. You may choose the direction without demanding control of every mile. And perhaps that is what trust really is. Not knowing that everything will happen exactly as you planned, but knowing that you can remain present, intelligent, and open, even when it does not. Now, you may understand the idea of opening the hand, but understanding it is not always the same as knowing how to live it. So I want you to bring one situation into your mind, not your entire life. Just one thing you have been trying to force, one relationship, one opportunity, one answer, one decision, one timeline, and ask yourself, what am I demanding from this situation? What do I believe must happen? What am I afraid it will mean if it does not? And what have I been doing repeatedly, not because the action is wise, but because the action gives me a few moments of relief? Do not judge the answer, simply see it. Awareness is the first opening of the hand. Then I want you to look beneath the exact outcome and find the deeper intention. Perhaps you have been saying, this particular person must love me. But beneath that demand may be a clean desire for mutual, healthy, freely given love. Perhaps you have been saying, this exact job must choose me. But beneath it may be a desire to use your abilities, contribute something meaningful, and be supported through your work. Perhaps you have been saying, this must happen by this date. But beneath the date may be a desire for growth, movement, and a new beginning. Do you see what you are doing? You are not betraying the desire. You are separating its essence from the one rigid form fear has chosen for it. Now imagine the hand opening. The desire is still there. You are not throwing it away. You are not pretending it does not matter. You are simply no longer crushing it. Say quietly within yourself, I honor what I desire, but I release the fear that says it must come through only one door. And then ask one final question. What is the next peaceful action? Not the next 10 actions, not the entire plan. One honest step and complete the work. Make the respectful call and tell the truth. Set the boundary and ask for help. Leave space for another person to respond, or perhaps stop knocking on a door that has already answered you. Sometimes aligned action means moving. Sometimes it means waiting. Sometimes it means resting long enough to hear what panic has been drowning out. And sometimes it means releasing what has clearly ended. Do what belongs to you, and then allow what does not belong to you to remain in the hands of life. And if you want this way of living to become natural, you must practice it in the ordinary moments of your day. Not only when life feels difficult, not only when you are waiting for an answer. Practice it before the mind has a chance to begin gripping. In the morning, before you reach for the phone, before you invite the noise of the world into your awareness, become still for a moment and ask yourself 3 simple questions. What can I intend today? What can I influence today? And what must I release? Perhaps you can influence the quality of your work, but not how quickly another person recognizes it. You can influence the honesty of your words, but not how someone chooses to receive them. You can influence your preparation, but not the exact moment the opportunity arrives. Then choose one quality you wish to carry into the day. Peace, patience, courage, clarity, openness, trust. Do not choose it as a performance. Choose it as a way of meeting what comes. Imagine one ordinary moment ahead of you, a conversation, a task, a decision, and see yourself entering it without gripping the result. Then in the evening, look back gently. Do not condemn yourself. Simply notice, where did I rush? Where did I chase? Where did I try to control another person's response? Where did I make my peace dependent upon an answer? And when you see the moment, open the hand again. Say quietly, I have done what belongs to me, and I release the rest. This is not a magical ritual. It is a new way of training the mind. A new way of meeting uncertainty, a new way of teaching yourself that peace does not have to wait until life obeys. Now, this is where many people misunderstand what it means to live from the end. They believe it means constantly checking whether the result has appeared. They set an intention and then spend the rest of the day looking for evidence. And they watch the phone, they watch the bank account, they watch another person's behavior, and they ask, is it here yet? Is it working yet? Has life answered me yet? But that is not living from the end. That is living from doubt. while pretending to practice faith. Living from the end means becoming familiar with the inner quality you believe the fulfilled life would contain. If what you desire represents peace, then practice peace now. If it represents love, meet yourself with dignity, openness, and self-respect now. If it represents abundance, stop allowing panic to make every decision for you. If it represents freedom, stop giving one outcome authority over your entire emotional life. You do not have to pretend that the physical result is already present when it is not. You do not have to deny disappointment. You do not have to ignore reality. But you can begin embodying the person you believe you would become after the answer arrives. Now think about that. If receiving the desire would make you calmer, wiser, more generous, more trusting, why wait to practice those qualities? Why make peace the reward you receive only after life agrees with you? You do not live from the end by staring at the door. You live from the end by becoming the person who can walk through the right door without losing themselves. And the moment you stop checking every few minutes, you create space. Space to notice, space to listen, space to respond intelligently. You still honor the desire, but you no longer ask the desire to become the source of who you are. And there is something deeper here. As long as the mind is obsessed with getting, it keeps asking the same questions. When will I receive? Why have I not been chosen? What must I do to make life give me what I want? The ego is always measuring what is missing, but the deeper self asks a different question. How may I serve? What can I offer here? What quality can I bring into this moment? How can I become useful, loving, present, even before the answer arrives? Now, this does not mean that your needs do not matter. It means that your life becomes larger than the need. When you shift from obsession to contribution, something inside you changes. Your energy becomes cleaner. Your choices become wiser. You stop approaching every person as a doorway to your fulfillment. And you begin meeting them as a place where your presence can have meaning. Perhaps the opportunity has not arrived yet, no, but you can still prepare. You can still encourage someone. You can still create. You can still bring patience, kindness, value, and integrity into the life that is already here. And this is the deepest purpose of surrender. Not merely to attract another possession, but to become free from the belief that life must obey you before you are allowed to live with meaning. You may still desire more, but you no longer postpone who you are until more arrives. So now return to the one thing you have been gripping throughout this message. See it clearly. The relationship, the opportunity, the answer, the future you have been trying to arrange before you allow yourself to breathe. I am not asking you to abandon the dream. I am asking you to release the fear that has attached itself to the dream. I am not asking you to stop acting. I am asking you to stop using action as a way to escape uncertainty. You do not need to know every step. You do not need to carry the entire future into this moment. You only need to become available to the next honest step. Now imagine the hand opening. The desire remains. Your heart is still committed. You may choose, you may prepare, you may act, you may remain devoted, and still you may open your hand. Because your desire does not become weaker when desperation is released. It becomes clearer. You stop asking one person to become the source of all love. You stop asking one opportunity to become the proof of your value. You stop asking one outcome to decide whether your life is moving in the right direction. And perhaps the answer will come in the form you imagined. Perhaps it will come through another doorway. Or perhaps letting go will give you the clarity to see that what you were trying to force was no longer worthy of your peace. Trust does not mean that every desire will be fulfilled exactly as you planned. Trust means that you will not destroy yourself trying to control what was never entirely yours to control. So hold the intention gently, do what belongs to you, and allow life enough space to reveal what fear could never have planned.